This is Nerds and Friends, and I've just made the admission that I've never seen Futurama. Let the pariah begin.
We're putting a temporary revocation on your nerd card, pending at a bare minimum. I want to go around the circle and ask, like, bare minimum, what's the one episode of Futurama that Josh needs to watch? I'll start off because I'm a horror fan. I love the Werecar episode.
Absolutely.
If that's what it sounds like, I'm invested.
Exactly with Bender. Oh, it's wonderful.
Yeah. Honestly,
Calculon and all that. Oh.
Yeah. Honestly, I'd say episode 2 where they go to the moon.
Oh yeah. Whalers on the moon.
Like, that is like the peak Futurama, and has just the best, most classic line there from Bender.
That's great. I mean, those are both great. I've got 2. So one, obviously Jurassic Park, I think, is a classic. Everyone says Jurassic Park.
Oh yeah.
But 2, I think the one where they go back in time when Bender makes the popcorn the wrong way. They go back in time, and then Fry pretty much becomes his own grandpa.
Yeah. The end of that episode is my favorite way to treat time travel ever, because they spend that whole episode trying to not fuck up time, and then when Fry brings that up to Farnsworth, he's just like, it's like, oh, I thought you said that we couldn't interfere with time. Oh, like I'm going to take advice from Mr. I'm my own grandpa. Like,
yes.
I can finally get context to that meme, because I have seen that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
then yes.
I'm changing my answer. The going back in time episode is actually like that's my standout favorite Futurama episode.
It's just so good. It's so good.
That's
I don't
awesome.
know, with blackjack and hookers, I think still one of the best lines.
Oh, absolutely.
Futurama.
I'll go make my own with blackjack. I mean, that's the most quoted, I think.
Yeah. I mean, aside from your music is bad and you should feel bad.
Yeah, your music is bad and you should feel bad. I used to do that impression just to crack up like 3 people when like at my old workplace, because like I don't remember the context, but we were doing something technically serious and everybody was down. And somebody asked me a question, like, I was like, oh, where do you live? Like, well, I live in a dumpster. The downside is that the insulation is terrible. The upside is I don't have to pay rent. And
sometimes you get free dinner.
Yeah, sometimes you get free dinner.
Exactly. Zoidberg, man.
So many good Zoidberg memes that you don't understand.
That I'm just sitting here just like, cool.
Speaking of impressions, Matthew, can you tell the audience what you do today?
Yeah, actually, so I'm a voice actor and voiceover artist. There is a difference between the two. It may not seem like it, but there's a little bit of a subtle difference. Voice acting, they tend to do more of the characterizations and stuff. Voiceover is more of the disembodied voice you hear in like voiceover trainings, e-learnings, what you hear when you call into an IVR. So yeah, I do a little bit of both of those.
Nice.
And, yeah, that's what I like to do. Speaking of, Zoidberg, Billy West, man, a fantastic voice actor.
Oh yeah, he's amazing, and the fact that he's half the people on that show at any given time is pretty great.
Yeah,
and you would never know it. You'd never know it.
No, yeah, because he's got really good range and differentiation between his characters.
Yeah, he's one of those people where like you finally realize that half of your childhood is voiced by this one person.
It blows your mind. That's Billy D. Williams did that to me as well. That was the voice actor who blew my mind on all the stuff he's done and been in everything from Halo to Star Wars. Yeah, he's been all over the place. So he was in I'm pretty sure Avatar: The Last Airbender. I mean, he's been all over the place.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So Billy D. Williams, D. Bradley Baker does like
D.
every
Bradley
animal
Baker.
ever.
Dude,
Billy D.
he's
Williams is
amazing.
also awesome.
Yes. But I meant D. Bradley Baker. Sorry, I did take an edible earlier, so my bad.
No, that's okay. This is a perfect kind of nerding then.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, D. Bradley Baker is who I meant, because he is like the most like him, Steve Bloom. He's up there. Crispin Freeman. You'd be surprised. Crispin Freeman's another fantastic voice actor.
Yeah.
Winston in Overwatch would be the most popular. You may know him by, but Orochimaru. He was in. I think he was the elder brother in what is that, Naruto? The Uchiha, the elder Uchiha.
Itachi.
Itachi. Yep, he was Itachi.
Yeah.
Crispin Freeman's got kind of that like he's got that vibe down, and he also has like he's got a great voice for it. It's kind of like how like I spent so much of my childhood like just loving how the Joker was voiced, and then when you found out that like when I found out it was Mark Hamill, like my brain exploded.
Yeah.
Right.
Just like that's Luke fucking Skywalker, and yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was like I had the realization that the Joker was Luke Skywalker only because I found out that he was also Fire Lord Ozai.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then you're like, wait, what? And then you dig deep.
How?
Like,
how could you? And yeah. Or like when I found out that like most of my childhood crushes on cartoon characters are either the voice of Tara Strong or
Gray Delisle.
Gray Delisle.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We talked about that.
Yeah.
Yep. It's funny when you start seeing that, and then you got obviously like Steve Bloom, who's been in everything under the sun. I mean, he's got, I think he still holds the Guinness World Book record for voice the most video game characters alone.
He was Master Chief, right?
No, I don't think he was Master Chief.
He was for some reason.
No, I think
the only thing, like, I know he played Wolverine for a long time in all the Marvel video games from the early 2000s, like, because he had that voice for like he had a voice that like really did fit being Wolverine. But he and like I want to, like, I was listening to an interview with his wife, and like his first real like leading role was Spike Spiegel in Cowboy Bebop.
It was.
And that was one of those things where you're just like, holy shit, like your first leading role, you got to knock it out of the park with an iconic character, and you had a voice that just fit that perfectly.
They had no idea too going into it. If you watch him speak on some of that, it was like a total crapshoot on what it would be, and it ended up being phenomenal. And that led straight into him being, the voice of Tom for Toonami as well.
Oh,
and
yeah,
tying directly into that. And then
I never realized he was the voice of Tom, and now my brain is just like is blown.
Oh, what?
Welcome to Toonami, everybody.
Absolutely, he's been the voice of Toonami for 25 years. I'm pretty sure now. Dude. Yeah, that's insane, right? That's insane. Toonami's been on for 25 years. That's insane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
back in the late 90s.
Off and on.
Hi, I'm Steve Bloom. Back in the late 90s, I was your depiction of masculinity.
Yep.
It was a whole bunch of that stuff. What got you into voice acting, man? Voice acting and voiceover. What was your impetus there?
Well, honestly, I realized looking back on it how much as a child I loved animated stuff, any kind of anime. I loved watching, obviously, like Simpsons, watching Futurama, anything. Once video games came around, I really got involved in that world, and I loved trying to mimic those voices, for one, which everybody kind of does. But really, I love creating. I worked in radio for a long time. I was like 17 to 19, and I worked in radio all through college. I did some radio work.
Nice.
It was a lot of fun. I got to be on radio a little bit, and I got to learn how to do copy, how they do commercials for radio, and that was a lot of fun. And I think that's really where my love for it started without realizing it. I went into college, and in college, I talked to one of my teachers about how I wanted to get into voice acting, and they said, "You'll never make it. You'll never do anything. You'll never be able to get into it because you're not rich and famous," basically. And I was like, "Oh, fuck you, dude. Whatever." Okay.
Yeah.
So I went into like doing the business side of the music industry and entertainment industry. So I learned a lot of contract law, copywriting, how to manage and book bands, how to manage an entertainment business, if you will. That's what I learned there, and I put that to work, working with a bunch of bands, and that eventually led into talking to some friends again that were creative about it, and they were like, you should give it a shot, get back into it and give it a shot. So I did. I dug head deep into it. Really started reading a few different books. One, Voice Actor by Yuri Lowenthal and Tara Platt. They're some fantastic voice actors. You should check out that book, by the way, if you are looking at doing voice acting or acting. But yeah, that's kind of what did it for me. And the more I dig in, the more I learn. It just makes me want to learn and know more. It's almost in and of its own way a little bit of an addiction.
Yeah, no, it sounds like you're
cool
doing the mastery of a task, which is so like fulfilling, to master something that really gives you fulfillment and a sense of purpose. And like, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was a lot of fun. I know both of you are writers, and you really have a lot of fun writing, and you create and produce beyond that. But what really got y'all on kind of down that path, what got you excited for that? Because I mean, that's without you, I don't have a job, right? Without the words you guys create,
I don't just have words and a sexy voice. So
exactly, I can ramble. I'm a disembodied voice, just talking about nonsense without you guys.
Well, Josh, why don't you start off with that question?
Yeah. I've been into creative stuff since I was a kid. Just like I got into books super early, so I got into creative writing too from a young age. And then when I was like 11 or 12, my parents gave me a little digital camera and were like, go play with your friends. And we got into making skits and doing YouTube videos and all that fun stuff. So that's where it started for me. And I just always wanted to either entertain people or like prompt good discussions or exploration of themes through storytelling, whether that be through writing or filmmaking and stuff like that. So that's just kind of been my pursuit since a young age.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Now today I have a weird headache, so I'm like, Carey, you take this one.
No, it's all good.
It's got to be the weather.
It's the weather out here in LA,
and I just feel like, ugh. And I've been apartment hunting and running around, driving through the rain all day, and I'm just like,
it's the first time it's rained in a couple of months, and I was walking back to my apartment. I was like, I feel like a skull with skin on it. And then my brain went, then my brain's like, that's exactly what I am. Whoa. So, and I haven't had an edible today. So,
right.
But as far as
you have that realization that you think of your skull as being inside of your body, but really you are your brain. So you're inside your skull.
Yeah,
right. I've got to go. No, I'm just kidding.
Inside of your body too.
We have to leave.
Because your brain's inside of your skull, which is inside of your meat and skin. So it's layer up. It's like meatception.
Yeah, like ogres have layers, man.
That's what I'm going to title this podcast, Meatception.
Meatception is the podcast I believe should be the podcast that the Epic Mealtime guys made when they decided to calm down a bit. It's just like welcome to Meatception, or whatever that Canadian dude sounded like.
Oh, dude, yeah, the very deep voice.
Yeah. Yep. That was a fun shtick back in the early aughts.
Oh my God, yeah, it was. I remember when they did I think it was a football stadium with fried hot dogs and all kinds of other shit filled with macaroni and bacon. And I think it was just insane.
That sounds both nauseating and delicious with my headache right now.
That kind of described Epic Mealtime. It was just like they're just gonna do what they do, and
you better hope to God you've got good health. They can only do that because they're Canadian. Okay, they're Canadian, and that's why they could do that, because they don't have to worry about what we do.
They've got free healthcare. Like we can hurt ourselves with food. We have free healthcare. Those Americans, it's too dangerous. They're too brittle.
They did that for us. You know what? They took that for the team.
Yep.
That was great, though.
Delightful.
I'll tell you, it was. But yeah, I'll tell you, voice acting has been a great journey. And then one thing they don't, most people think, they hear you've got a good voice, right? But it's a lot more than just having a good voice. You have to learn the skills of acting. You have to learn. If you really want to be good at it, you have to learn how to manage your breathing. A lot of the time you don't get the script until day of, or the moment.
Yeah, not a lot of time to rehearse then.
No, so you've got to practice your cold reading a lot. You've got to practice being able to read what is happening, really. What is that character's motivation? What's the understanding? What are the emotions happening there? And portray that pretty quickly on a dime, and take feedback immediately and go like, okay, that wasn't quite good enough. I need you to do it for me a little bit better this time, and just in the moment feedback back and forth, a lot of that. So it takes it takes a lot, I would say. And you kind of get, you got to be okay looking funny, because sometimes you have to like hunch down and get your body to create all these sounds and different echoes, it's a very physical thing too. It's pretty interesting. I never thought that getting into it, but as the more I've had an opportunity to audition for roles or get roles, or take on different clients, it's been interesting learning how to get what they need out of my body, which, man, that is not a good sentence out of context.
We're just you're gonna give us your body today. When you're selling your body, like, there's only so much that you can do.
I mean, we live in America, aren't we all, to some degree?
Oh, 100%.
We are. Welcome to it.
Let's talk about capitalism.
Right.
But no, Matt, I think it's fascinating that there's, you do have a great voice, and you clearly like have a talent for this, but that's like just the core of it. Whereas you've built up the mastery and put in the work and learned all these skills. I think that's really awesome to show that you have that passion and drive and that dedication. So that's just like, I got goosebumps. I'm like, I love when people have a passion and they just like go for it, like, it's fucking awesome. I love that.
Oh, thanks, man. That means a lot. I took when I was maybe 17 or 18, I came up with something that's not, terribly unique to me, but it's something that meant a lot to me. Is like, the biggest obstacle in your life is yourself. If you can get over yourself, if you can get over and do anything. Just get over yourself, basically, is kind of, I know it sounds a little tough, and, it's not always, there's layers to it, but ultimately, trying to get over yourself and deal with things and get what you want done.
Yeah, well, we are the story that we tell ourselves at any given time, and it just kind of depends on like what the framing of that story is. I think a lot about that because I'm a big fan of mythology and like the way people communicate and how people communicate within like their own, because I was thinking about that like niche groups, and why one of the cool things about the internet is you can have these niche fandoms for things where people get to interact. And the thing about it is that you've taken something that I was trying to describe this to somebody where because somebody thought that like something about being a nerd or a fan of something was like childish. And I said, well, no, that's not fair, because this is something that children do does not make it something inherently childish. Like, this is something that you can be passionate about. And it's not like, people put a lot of work and research into things, and research and passion into something like making a cartoon. Like, the people that make cartoons now, you can see that these are people that were fans of Looney Tunes growing up, and or something, and they want to pay homage
further back.
Even further back, when you get to see people like I don't know a damn thing about Cuphead. I know it was a video game at some point, but
taking back to like Felix the Cat and stuff. You go back way back then. Absolutely. You go, and even further back, there's homages to all art, right? Because it all ties in together. You'll have animated shows that pay homage to live action shows. The was that One Shot to the Moon, I think, was I believe was the first movie.
I watched that in film school. It's amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they still make homages to that to this day in animated shows and stuff. That's over 100 years ago now that was made, and that's the beauty of the zeitgeist of art. And I think you tap into something when you were talking about childishness, right? You can be childish about anything. A subject matter in and of itself doesn't have to be childish. It's how you approach or handle that subject matter that really may be childish, and it's also your own perception of that, right? It's your own prejudices. And I think a lot of people should take a step back if they're wanting to judge something and understand, why am I judging something for that, and with how that is, right? Is that something because of truly what it is, which maybe it is, or is it maybe something that I should check in myself first? And
it's like what's my hang up that I'm projecting onto somebody else, which is, like I mean, heck, I was talking like if you want to hear childish, every time I hop on a call with Will, who is teaching me how to do art better, he usually shows me something and then he hears me giggling for 10 minutes as I just try it out on Photoshop. And I'm just so thrilled to learn a new skill or tool. And I just get to I get to dick around with it. But the cool thing about that is like I have this, I get to take something, I get to learn a tool, I get to have fun with it. And I've actually seen in the past couple months, my art get better for that reason. And it's one of those things, it's because you're having fun with it. And I think that finding something that you can have fun with and not force is a huge thing. I think Josh definitely is able to do that with writing in D&D. Will, I love watching Will work. Like if Will ever started an art live stream, I'd be like first and foremost fanboy there.
Oh,
like,
that's awesome.
It sounds like you do the same thing with voice acting.
For our viewers, this is some of Will's work right there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that is great stuff, by the way, man. I like that.
Yeah,
You're
Will's.
welcome.
Yeah, I actually just did an interview this morning for a blog about authors, and they were like, "Tell us about how you chose your cover artist." And I was like, "I got real lucky with a really talented friend who does amazing work, and I put all your social media handles in there."
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, one thing you may not know about me, I actually am a little bit of a writer too.
Awesome.
I actually got a comic published a little bit called Starship 420. Now that's a fun.
Dude, hell yeah, that's awesome.
That is a fun.
We gotta put the link to that in the podcast description so people can check it out.
Oh, dude, I would love that. I would love for people to check that out. It was so much fun to write. It's kind of a parody of big pharma, but man, it's great. Basically, there's a disease called thermal epileptitis that's infected the galaxy. The last planet on Earth, the last planet in the universe that can produce the cure is Earth, which is marijuana is the cure for it.
Nice.
Quanticore. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as we all understood, since that 420 is Colorado slang, as we
yep.
Absolutely. So it's just a lot of fun though. It's very much in the vein of Futurama with some Jay and Silent Bob thrown in there, obviously, and it's just
excellent.
I love writing though too. It's creating, right? It's you tap into making something for somebody else and connecting with a greater, something greater than you.
I had no idea you wrote a comic, man. I can't wait to read it. That's so cool.
Dude, yeah. We've only got like 8 or so pages worth of the story that were published. It was in a local Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, Alabama, and I think Tennessee. Those are the areas it was distributed in this magazine.
Nice.
So we were in there for about 8 months, which was 8 pages worth.
Dude, hell yeah.
That's very cool.
That's really awesome, man.
Kind of get to publish that page by page thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was kind of like a serial, which was a lot of fun. But we've got pages worth of stuff. I've written a few TV shows worth of episodes worth of TV, a few different things as well, and like a 40-page manifest. So we've got a shit ton written for it.
Dude, that's awesome.
Actually, yeah, here's some of the artwork. I actually had some laying around, but that's Verbal Zine. That's it was like, this is demo art, but it's Verbal Zine is like a liquid software, so you can understand them if they're speaking a liquid, an alien language, right? They spritz you in the eye with this, and it translates it for you.
Nice.
That's cool. Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's an interesting little thing.
There's a ton of little things like that all throughout the thing, but yeah, that's again though, creating voices, right? I wanted to create a podcast for that, and I wanted to do voices for it and everything. I wanted a serial. There's a bunch of stuff I wanted to do like that though.
Well, that sounds like something that would make for a really good like old school radio play style podcast, which I'm a huge fan of narrative podcasts just in general. I love them, and like I had an idea that's kind of becoming something else now, but the first thing I wanted to do was I kind of wanted to make like a radio horror, like a radio comedy horror. And so like the first time I tried writing it, I was writing it out with like Yeah, very groovy. And and I was writing it out with like where the sound effects would be and like what I could keep hidden. And but like I realized like there are people that do that in the podcast world, and it's always it's interesting how many different mediums you can find or different formats of podcasts. You can you have long form conversations, you have people that do a live play podcast, but they edit it down to an hour of some RPG. You have like the video pods, like we're doing, like the video casts. And people get to like really flex some independent creative muscles. It's kind of like the way that people do indie comics, where you have that ability to play with a format, and this is a space where you can really do it. I think that's fucking awesome.
It's super versatile, man.
It's amazing what you can do with just a voice and a microphone, honestly.
It is.
The storytelling possibilities are almost limitless.
Yep. It's an ear and a vessel, right? At the end of the day, it's the oldest technology we've had. We've always passed stories around. It's just the latest manifestation of it in the most beautiful way, I feel like, and such a connected way to be able to like talk how we are right now, tell our own stories, right? Because I mean, these are how those stories that we write are created. You know, we learn and grow our experiences, our horizons, by learning about how other people have grown and expanded theirs. I mean, that's kind of the beauty of it.
Awesome. And verbal traditions are super fascinating in that respect, because you get to like you create a collective interpretation of a story. I think I was talking with Will about this, how one of the cool things that I like about the way that Critical Role fan art happens is everybody draws their own interpretation of what Critical Role characters look like. And the cool thing is that they're all right, because and through that people draw so many different, like last campaign, there was about there's about a billion interpretations of the character Gesture Lavore. And then it kind of nailed down, like there were like three basic, like these are kind of the standard commonalities between these characters. And that's such it's such an interesting way that like the stuff that comes to the fore is the stuff that like hits that right chord with everybody. But it doesn't stop people from making things that are in and of themselves unique.
Yeah,
that's fascinating.
Awesome. I love that. And this, another fun example of that, did you ever see the Netflix anime Castlevania based on the video game? Oh man,
it's so good.
It's so good. But the way
I'm gonna lose my nerd card all over again. I haven't seen it.
Oh, that's okay.
I know it's not the right context or anime, but you've activated my Alucard.
Well, there is a character named Alucard in there.
So, yeah, exactly. Like I know it's like wrong Alucard, but
yes, but close enough. Oh man,
I mean, is it
Alucard
really the wrong? Yeah.
No. Sorry, no. I was gonna go ahead.
I'm just making a stupid joke now.
Oh, well, no, it isn't the wrong way. It's not a stupid joke. Confidence in yourself, sir, because that was a good joke. I trampled over it though. I'm sorry. I was going to say
a good joke. I don't know 100% because I'm not sure what we're referencing, but I bet it was a good joke.
Alucard from Hellsing, Crispin Freeman voiced him.
Yep.
So
found that out today.
I'm learning things.
Right. It's funny, and that's the neat thing about voice actors. Once you find your voice actors' names and you start looking for them, they start appearing everywhere, right? John DiMaggio, I mean, he's a very, very clearly defined voice, but he also voiced a lot on Futurama, as well as Disenchantment. He does a lot of voices on there too.
Yeah,
I've seen some episodes of that show. I enjoyed that. Finally, I can relate to something. Yes.
Yes.
That's a really fun graining property too. So
yeah. I'm finally actually getting through it. I had watched a couple episodes a while back, and now I'm finally actually getting through the rest of the series.
That's the one from the makers of The Simpsons with the princess who's an alcoholic.
Yep.
Okay, it's been a while since I've seen it, but I've seen a lot of
Eric Andre is the demon.
That's right. Yes.
Oh, that's Eric Andre. Shit, that is Eric Andre. Damn, that's awesome.
it's fucking awesome. That's the beautiful thing about voice acting, though. Is like there's all these voices all over the place. You never realize it really, or maybe you do. And once you do, it's kind of a fun thing and blowing people's minds when you start talking about who the voices that is just so much fun. I'm gonna be honest.
I used to, me and Will's mutual friend, actually the one that introduced me to Will, a guy named Ty. I used to drive him nuts because we were roommates in college, and I've got a pretty good ear for voice actors. And I'd just be like, oh yeah, that's Zabuza out of Naruto, and he'd be like, you motherfucker, and because that's like a Steve Bloom character. It's just like,
yep.
That's awesome.
It's so much fun.
Yeah, that was like that. Actually, that was one of the funny things that I was listening to Critical Role, because I think because Carey got me into Critical Role, and he told me that Roy Mustang was in there. And so I was prepared for that, but I didn't realize that Laura Bailey was both Lust and Toru Honda. So just listening to her going through the motions, and then my brain's just picking up on all of these different Laura Bailey characters that I've heard over the years. I'm like, wait, that voice. Know that voice.
It's familiar.
Why do I know that voice? Yeah. Also, I was not expecting.
That's a great title for something.
Yeah. So that is. There's a Netflix documentary called "I Know That Voice." That's all about voice actors. It's really, really good.
I haven't seen that. Then
it goes through the history. It's very good. I think you'll enjoy it. John DiMaggio is all over it. The best is like they have a little short segment about people talking about voicing Jokers, and God, who's like. He's a freaking fantastic voice actor, and he voiced that version of the Joker that I think was in the Batman, where he was the Joker from an insane asylum.
Yeah, with the sleeves.
With the sleeves. And you hear, and Mark Hamill, and it just cuts to Mark Hamill, and he's like, I am so jealous of his Joker voice. And then it just cuts to that guy, and he does the voice, and you get
Troy Baker,
chills.
maybe?
No. It might be Troy Baker. I'm gonna have to IMDb it, but he just he just sells this Joker on the spot. And you can tell like when people like really enjoy the character that they get to do, and they're just like into it in the spot. It's a very cool documentary to watch. I think you'll appreciate it on a level that I don't even.
I'm gonna have to put it on my list. Absolutely, then yeah, because I love that. I love learning about the history of that too, and that's one thing that will set you apart in this. And as you know, in anything in this industry, in the entertainment industry, I mean, you really have to love it. You have to love what you're doing, and it has to be something you got a passion for. Because Absolutely. If you're doing it for a paycheck, you're going to be so fucking disappointed.
Yes.
At least at first. But
I feel like the passion is like the ticket to the door. And then the dedication is what will get you there. So
exactly.
Yeah.
The work.
Kevin Michael Richardson.
Yeah.
Kevin Michael Richardson. Okay.
Kevin Michael Richardson is the guy who voiced the Joker in the Batman, the 04 to 08. And he's dude's prolific.
Wasn't he in Babylon 5? No, he wasn't in Babylon 5. I'm thinking of somebody else.
I'm not sure because my my internet is not appreciating going into going into this, but like I'm actually like the voice. Oh, hey, Adam West was in it. The voice cast on the 04 to 08 Batman. Ron Perlman was Killer Croc. Clancy Brown was. Jason Marsden was Firefly.
Clancy Brown's amazing.
He is.
Oh my God, SpongeBob was the Penguin. Tom Kenny was the Penguin.
That's brilliant.
Tom Kenny was the Penguin.
Tom Kenny is amazing.
He's in a lot of stuff.
A lot of things that you don't realize. He got so famous for being SpongeBob, but he has such a great range that you just like you can't see the voice of SpongeBob doing like half of the things that he does.
He's very versatile.
It's
very
amazing.
versatile.
Mm-hmm. And from the look of it, he's 7 feet tall too.
That's a lot of what separates those greats, though.
I was really bummed when I was a PA on the second SpongeBob movie, and I never got to meet Tom Kenny because I was mainly with the animators. So I was like, I want to meet Tom Kenny so bad. It was cool. Yeah, it was fun.
But maybe next time. That just means next time. right?
Yeah.
Next time.
Yes.
Well, as we know, all voice actors know each other, so perhaps you could introduce me.
Okay. I will work on that for you. It is a small world, and it is something you constantly have to be training in. Like I take classes constantly still.
Awesome.
I'm taking classes. If I'm not taking one-on-one coachings, I've got 3 different sites. I've got classes I take on. Steve Bloom has an academy. I take his classes. Gravy for the Brain, which is a fantastic. They've got some fantastic courses on there, because you also have to learn how to be a bit of a business person too, right? Like you have to learn.
Yeah, because you're your own marketing department right there. All
of it, which benefit of my current job, I run the marketing department for an IT firm. So
hey, there you go.
So that helps. That gave me some good experience, and it's nice seeing you look back on your your life sometimes, and you see how all the different pieces of it kind of fall into place towards stuff. And that's again for me, I was like, man, this is what I need to be doing, what I'm meant to be doing, what I always did want to do. And now I've kind of got the bravery. Now I'm in my 30s. I think I can do it.
Nice.
I think I'm a little bit more brave.
Yeah. So
when it comes go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just like when you are working in the industry, what is it like trying to get work and trying to market yourself like that?
Not being afraid of denial, for one. You have to. It's a lot of strategically throwing spaghetti at a wall. So I know that sounds
well
a little
said.
Crazy, but
no, that makes sense with my favorite C. Robert Cargill quote, the guy who wrote Doctor Strange and Doctor Sleep. He likes writing movies with doctor in the title, but
maybe he wanted to be a doctor.
It could be, but I love his quote about he said, for writers or really anyone who works in entertainment, he said, don't be afraid of no's. You're going to get hundreds of them, if not thousands, but the yeses are life-changing and they're worth pursuing. That's a terrible paraphrase of the quote, but it's absolutely
it's the truth.
It is. Yeah.
It is the truth. Cause just to be honest, you may audition 100 times and get one win out of that 100. Just being, especially starting out, maybe more than that, maybe 150 starting out, or more.
But it might be the next Cowboy Bebop.
Exactly, and you never know where it's going to lead either, right? So don't be too good for anything, and be open to stuff. You want to, obviously, if you have a goal, that's great. Like, you want to be an anime, that's wonderful, but that cannot be your only goal if you're really serious about voice acting. Not really. Very few people, like Bob Bergen is an example of having one goal and being able to get that, because he wanted to be the voice of Porky Pig like crazy. I mean, he wrote the voice of Porky. Mel Blanc, I believe it was, back in the day, wrote him about it as a fan, and he wrote back to Mel Blanc wrote back to Bob Bergen, and he went to Bob Bergen went to acting school. He kind of hung up on the idea, and eventually he actually got to audition after Mel Blanc passed, and he is the voice of Porky now. He is the voice of Porky Pig. But that is,
and he got there.
He did, but that's the exception to the rule. Absolutely, not everyone. Yeah, so like, be open to working in really anything, right? Do e-learning. There's so much e-learning and corporate work out there that's ridiculous, and it pays money. That pays your bills, right? Pay your bills so you can do the stuff you really want to do.
I was going to say, like, what kind of like smaller things do you do to pay the bills, and what kind of stuff do you do to like what's like your workout routine for something like this? How do you hone skill or like grind XP, like however you want to put it?
How do I hit the grind? So let's see here. There's a few different ways you can. One, you go down, left, right, up, down, left, right, up, R1, R2, R1, R2. No,
yes.
But really, exactly.
Even Josh got that reference.
The only not nerd in the room.
Paying the bills
reference. Got to started the podcast.
It's wonderful. It's, what? That's the irony of life. That's the beauty of it. Well, reading every single day, for one, reading out loud, practicing your copy. So one thing I do is pretty much every single day, I read a couple of chapters of a book out loud, trying to voice the characters, trying to read the tone, and going back and forth. This is definitely a bit of a challenge, but it's something very important to do. Staying hydrated, drinking tons of water. So being able to avoid mouth clicks or too watery or swishy of a sound. There's a kind of a balance to it. drinking water up to, like, if you're going to be auditioning every day, you need to be staying hydrated pretty much every day. But if you know you're got something coming up, at least you know a day or so in advance, making sure you're plenty hydrated. Understanding how to also work out your diaphragm, so taking breathing lessons, working also if you have someone that maybe can teach you some singing lessons. Actually, that will teach you the breath control you need to be able to, say, do efforts. And like if you have a whole long monologue that you have to hit, there's a lot of different ways you can, but constantly being reading, listening to voices and trying to replicate them, and how the delivery is on things you like. And trying to do one fun thing to do with commercial reads is what is called the Character Cloak. So you'll have maybe something they need, like a really down-to-earth, mellow, conversational voice that they want you to hear. But when you're reading it through the first time, you throw a Character Cloak on it, like you read it in a very funny voice, right? Like, coming this Friday, we're going to do, we got Friday. We've got the big monster trucks coming down to the state fairground. You some weird, overly exaggerated voice. And then immediately when you're done with it, you go into reading it like, this Friday, we've got down at the fairgrounds, whatever it may be. And it's supposed to loosen you up a little bit.
So I have, if I can tell a super dorky and very specific story about this. So me and Josh met in Army ROTC, and in ROTC, like everything has to have its fucking creed, like this is our creed. Now the soldier's creed is like, actually, like, it has some weight and it has some meaning. There's a Ranger creed, Special Forces creed, all this stuff.
Well, what about the cadet creed, Carey?
Yeah, and at one point they go learn the cadet creed, and I was a fucking sophomore. And every time I read it, I wanted to jump off a bridge. It is the most inane thing. It is the most like I could go out and publicly masturbate and I would feel less dirty than saying this out loud to people. So I just couldn't. It was too self-serving. So, but we had to memorize it over the course of like 2 days. So I memorized it while doing an impression of Zap Brannigan. And then I couldn't do it any other way. And here's the best part. Because I am extrovert and I talk, I should have fucking known I'm going to be the one that they call on to demonstrate they memorized it. And I panic because I don't have it memorized straight. And I have it pulled up because and so I get up there and they're like, Cadet DuVal, get up here and tell us. Like, okay. And I'm standing up there and I'm fucking 19 and I go, I am an Army cadet. Soon I will take an oath and become an Army officer committed to defending the values that make this nation great.
Oh, the cringe.
And yeah, that was the thing. And immediately, like, the person who called me looks furious. Every other senior around her is dying laughing. And the
Chelsea
best part
Jew
was,
who just called on you?
Jew was the one that called me. Nobody else
she
had
the
to. Nobody else had to.
Face. She had the best angry face.
Yeah, she had a very angry face, but nobody else had to read it. I broke the system because I had to memorize it as an idiot because it was such an idiotic thing. But I still to this day, like, I know the first line of that by heart in the Zap Brannigan voice because that's still a funny, like, touchstone. Like, that was my character cloak for that.
That's great. That's exactly it. That's first and foremost, that's fucking hilarious, dude. That's brilliant.
Stupid games and stupid prizes.
Exactly.
That's brilliant. That made my day.
That's something I'm going to try with. I've been doing acting classes lately just for fun, and
nice.
Memorization is one of my. Oh, I've been working with Just Be Acting Studio, so random plug to them. They're awesome. Yes.
Nice.
No, I'm memorizing scenes is tough for me, so I think I'm going to try that the next time I get a scene to see if that helps, where I do it in a crazy voice and then kind of bring it down just to loosen up and like really get it in there, Do
it in your fucking Buckaroo Banzai impression, man. Like,
oh well, you got to do the Buckaroo Banzai impression.
Well, no, I can't do an impression of Buckaroo Banzai. I do the character.
John Lithgow's character, right? Like,
no, I forget the actor's name, but his character is John something, and he's one of the aliens, and he just like he made the best creative decision ever, where whenever he talks, he's just doing something weird with his hands as he's like, "Oh, the aliens are coming," and it's just like his hands are different in every scene, and I was just like, I love it, it's brilliant. So I played a D&D character in one of Carey's games doing that, and and that was super fun. So
that's awesome.
Oh, dude, it was brilliant. He was fucking hilarious.
I have a roommate currently whose dad is a pretty famous actor. I can't say who, but he has like an accent that's clearly contrived, because he's from California, but he's always like, "Hey guys, how's it going?" Like, it's clearly on purpose, and I'm just like, he just talks very bizarre. So I kind of, that's the voice that's in my head, is just my Ray voice. So that's hey guys, how you doing?
Hey guys, how you doing? You come around here often?
You gonna finish those fries, or can I get some?
You want to go behind the corner and smoke some coffee grounds? No, really, they're coffee grounds. It's what I found here.
Found them in a hole.
In the dumpster. You want to sit around this hole?
Oh
man, but that's great.
Man, this is the best friend I've ever had.
God, Voidberg.
Amazing how things come around like that.
Absolutely. I'll tell you, man. It's
I
can't get Zoidberg out of my head now. You guys.
Last week was finally like the scene where in my acting class, where I was like, I came into class and I was like, I fully rehearsed, and I was like the most memorized I've ever been. It was a scene from the show Shameless, which I've never really watched, but it was I felt really good about it, so it was a fun time.
Hey, that's good stuff, man. And that's the cool thing with voice acting too, is like I try to take acting classes as well, and it all helps you, it all really helps you. It's all learning and studying and loving the craft of it at the end of the day. It really is.
Absolutely.
And that's the best way to get better at it, as any voice actor that I've followed that's been worth their salt, like the Bob Bergens, the Steve Blooms, the Phil Lamars of the world, talk about, you have to love it. You really have to just want to keep chasing it and learn more about it. And I do pretty much every day. I'm working on it in some way, man. And
that's awesome.
That's what you got to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's the best advice I ever got, to echo off that from just a writer who I really admire. Is I said, how did you attain the success you did? And he said, just write every day. It doesn't matter if it's good or not, just write every day. And I was like, I'm going to do that. So
that is what we shall do.
You watch Bojack Horseman at all? Have y'all ever seen Bojack?
Are you guys just trying to take my nerd card? Like, what is happening here?
I think Bojack,
we conspire.
Yeah.
Have you ever watched any show?
Do you watch television, Josh?
Not as much as I should for someone who works in the fucking industry.
Do you even nerd, sir? I think I've said it on the podcast.
I play enough D&D to make up for my lack of viewership. I will die on that hill.
The nerd specificity is real. So
I'll hide behind my D20s all day.
Go right ahead. What's the what's your Bojack Horseman shtick?
Yeah, the tie into that is, and I'm paraphrasing it, but there's Bojack is laying on the ground after, I think, trying to work out if I remember correctly, he'd been trying to get clean. He was laying on the ground and just like exhausted, and this guy he'd seen running around him, which was a monkey, a very fit monkey, was running by him with the sun over him. He's like, "Hey man, can I give you a hand up?" And he's like, "Man, I don't know how you do this, how you get out there and how you constantly are running." And he's like, "Oh, the easy part is, I just got to do it. But the hard part is I've got to do it every day." And I'm paraphrasing that terribly, but you've got to do it every day, even the days you feel like absolute dog shit, man. The days you mentally are kicking yourself in the foot, like, I suck. I'm terrible. I haven't booked anything. I haven't gotten anybody to give me a call back in forever. I am unworthy of this. You have to find a way to get through that shit. And it's again going back to that getting over yourself, right? Because at the end of the day, that's just yourself trying to make you feel pity for yourself, or in some way, however it manifests for you. For everyone it's a little bit different, but that's getting over that is really the challenge of it.
That's sage advice. It's kind of like our guest that we had on many episodes ago, Brandon Johnson, the fitness coach.
The fitness ghost.
The fitness ghost.
Fitness ghost. Now that sounds like a fun story.
Ah.
Why aren't you lifting, bro? Why aren't you lifting?
But I loved his quote where he said the heaviest weight of the gym is the door, and I was like, that is a well said.
Yeah.
Well said.
Getting into a groove with like anything is I found, because I'm ADHD as fuck. Like I have always had a problem. If I'm not like 100% interested in something, I pick up and I walk away. Like I can't focus on it. But if I'm really interested in something, I will sit in a chair for 12 hours just drawing. It'll be, I'll get really specific on something. And one of the things and being in a rigid environment with my last job in the military was, it's a really good structure for people with ADHD and people that are neurodivergent, because you have a specific structure and like you have deadlines and goals, and a lot of things are given to you. You set a good chunk of your schedules, but a bunch of them are given to you by people. And when I got out, like one of the things was I didn't know how to focus. I don't have a regimen, like a daily anything. And what I'm getting to, because I fucking dance around shit and I do tangents.
But they're awesome tangents.
No, I'm enjoying the ride, man. I'm buckled in, bro. I'm here. I've got some fucking popcorn, bro.
Yeah, get that pop. Not beating myself up for not being able to stick to something has been like, and it's not specifically like it's mostly not being able to stick to a specific schedule. Like if I get to the gym daily, which I like, that's a passion of mine, I'm good. It doesn't matter if I always go at 6 a.m. every day. If I do some form of writing, it doesn't matter if I'm writing the novel or if I'm writing or if I'm kind of like toying around with an essay. If I do some writing, I'm good. Drawing, as long as I bring my sketchbook everywhere, and as long as I can sit down and try and unfuck the thing I don't like about the way I draw eyes or fingers, then that's a success for the day. And sometimes I'll do something big and it'll take all day, and that'll be a success. But even if I do like the little thing and I get a little bit of practice in, I count that because it's still forward progress for me.
Yep. It's giving yourself that grace. It's giving,
Yeah.
because we all, especially our generation, I think, and the people that kind of grew up around us, I feel like we're very self-critical of not being enough, not being perfect enough, not doing enough, especially if you are, neurodivergent. I've got PTSD, major depressive disorder, and OCD, just to name a few things. And you have to check that voice in your head, and finding ways to do that. And like you're just talking about, that's the key to it. And that's the key to longevity in this too, right? Because the greats they are aware of their faults, but they also give themselves the space to have those faults and also grow and push themselves, like finding ways. Yeah, I made it here. I did the thing. At least I did that. Still doing that thing, and keeping that as your motivating factor, too. And to give yourself, some self-praise for that. Like, yeah, at least I did that. Keep yourself motivated to keep going at it.
Yeah. Made that forward progress for the day.
Yeah, like I can totally relate, because I was dealing with depression like last couple of years, and like that's just one of the things that I had to do with like, okay, I don't want to do anything, but I have to do something just for the sake of doing something. It's just like one foot in front of the other, just for the sake of continuing to move, even if you're not getting far.
Yeah.
At least my therapist calls it contrary action. She's like, when you're laying in bed depressed, she's like, get up and go for a walk, go right. Like, it's the last thing you want to do, but you will feel better. And I'm like, why does that have to be the solution? But God damn it, you're right.
Fuck you for being right.
God damn it. You and your facts. Get out of here with your science.
Yeah, but what do you know? You therapist.
Expert in this particular disorder.
What are
What I
you?
do company for.
Are you a subject matter expert or some bullshit?
You are. So you've got a diploma. Oh yeah,
right?
it's there.
Oh,
all right.
Got multiple.
What are you? A fucking doctor? Oh, you are. Good.
Oh, great.
It's great though.
I love it.
It is, because really though, I mean, it's hard coming over there. I remember, when my mom passed, just sorry for trigger warning on that.
No, not at all, man.
When that was a few years ago, just because that was a big source of my trauma, was my family stuff. I don't really have much to do with them because they were a little crazy. Example, they tried to perform an exorcism on me once because they thought I was possessed by the literal devil. So,
so you've got some healthy religious trauma going on.
Oh, wonderful. Who doesn't when they were raised in the South? And but so that's trying to work my way through that was that, though, finding something one step at a time and finding my own self in it, right? Like finding why I did it, because I dealt with a lot of codependency issues, and I still do. I mean, I think a lot of people do more than they realize, especially in our country. Starting to heal that and starting to find why I want to do something. Am I doing this because I really want to do that, or to serve something else? And trying to cut out the stuff, at least for now, that wasn't serving anything other than myself, trying to heal to get back to a place where I had it in me to give for the right reasons. Like that was huge. And I think that's part of what led me back to having the confidence to be able to do voice acting, and because it is hard, because it's also, especially in this post-COVID world, it's very isolated, right? It's me and a microphone most of the time.
Yeah.
I mean, there are certainly, communities that you can be a part of and are a part of, and that's beautiful and that's wonderful, but you're still isolated and siloed a little bit. Yep. I'm in Colorado Springs. There's not a ton of artistic stuff happening here from that perspective, but it's trying to find ways to get through that, and it's so important to find that community. And thank y'all for having me on this, because it's been
of course.
Absolutely.
I've been loving this. Y'all are awesome.
I didn't realize you were over in the Springs.
Will's up in Denver.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Hey, that's awesome, man. Yeah. Hey, right down the road. I just passed through Denver. I was up in Grand Junction all weekend. I went to basically created a mini festival this weekend. There were 2 concerts, one on Saturday, one on Sunday, the Grand Junction Convention Center, and me and a friend got tickets up there for it. So that's also why I'm a little tired. I was like,
had a good weekend. That's awesome, man.
That was all good. I was going to bring it back to like you being at the microphone, because you're just like dancing with myself. I'm dancing with myself.
Exactly.
Sometimes you gotta find the thing. You gotta find the thing that's like when when you get to be isolated and like have fun with it. And it's not in like the COVID being alone together thing. Like that's what the Zoom calls are for. All right, this is going to be like, there's 15 people that fucking listen to the show. So this is going to be like,
hey, we get like an average of 23, Carey. We have 23.
Okay.
People
So the 23 people are going to know that I tend to watch something, and if I really like it, I will rewatch it multiple times in the background to the point where I have the exact intonation and timing of almost every line of something.
So you can quote it as it's happening, right?
I can quote it as it's happening.
Like, I'm ready for my favorite part.
Or like I guarantee you the people on either side of me in my apartment complex think that I'm insane because I'll just be in my kitchen. I'll be cooking like, Alistair, darling, pleasure to meet you. Wonderful to meet you here. And just like start doing a voice from Has-Been Hotel or Hell of a Boss.
Oh, that's wonderful, dude.
And
have you done any voice acting stuff? Have you thought about trying it?
I have thought about it. I keep getting intimidated by the VO reel because I'm like, I'm going to do it. And then my brain's like, there's these 17 things you need to do to make a VO or a demo reel. I'm like, well, fuck. So
you got to just start somewhere small, and honestly, just start with like, you won't be doing your demo reel first. Let me just tell you that first and foremost. Going to voice, you won't do your demo reel until much later. I don't have a demo reel yet.
Oh, thank God. All right.
So let me just tell you.
Now we can start.
Now you can. Just being honest with you. That's the other thing about it. What I was talking about earlier, all the studying, right? You don't want to do a demo reel until your chops are top tier, because that is showcasing you who you are. You don't want to go shopping around a half-cooked plate of dinner, right? I mean, McDonald's doesn't give you the Big Mac that you get at 3 a.m. They give you the one
that you
this
slaughtered chicken. Can I work at KFC?
Exactly.
Exactly. Well, I see you brought your own chicken, so I mean, who am I to deny you?
I got 32 herbs and spices, Sonny. We can get a stew brewing here in a minute.
Well, I have an idea for the first thing that we can do to showcase Mathew and Carey's awesome voices. And Will, we're roping you into this as well, but not to give too much away, but we're going to start doing an extension of Nerds and Friends that is going to kind of be a creative Carey, how do you want to describe the world that we're creating for our one? I don't want to give anything away yet, but Matthew, you're invited. That's all I'm saying.
This is new. Oh,
you're the
it's
first
going to
one.
be you're the intro. It's going to be.
Trying to get this out at the same time that I am. So,
Will, I think you're going to enjoy this.
Me and my little friend are very excited for that. We're excited.
Perfect. Oh, look at that. That's fucking awesome.
That's cool.
It's meta looking. It's going to be kind of a tabletop RPG thing, but the shtick is that it's going to be only one shots all set in the same world. So you're gonna show like whoever would be the guest for the week, or the guests, because this could be a multiple thing. Me and Josh are gonna co-DM, and the people they're gonna come in and they're gonna build their character right there in like a 10-15 minute super streamlined thing. And the idea is in that 1 to 2 hour range, we're gonna have a beginning, middle, end that's gonna play like a short story.
Oh, and that's beautiful.
And then it's going to be collaborative, very rule of cool, and specifically it's going to be chronological. So the first people to play, like, it's not that I don't want to that we don't want to say no. It's that I want to make the idea work. So we're gonna make whatever concept anybody has for the game work in like kind of a fantasy context. I'm thinking Discworld personally, and whatever somebody does in that one shot will affect the world going forward, even if the next game is in a different town across the map. Like, so it's and this
is going to be very improv driven. Oh yes,
it's going to be super improv driven, to the point where we're kind of hammering out a system and everything. But basically, like, me and Josh spent a couple hours roughing out a map and the very baseline stuff about the world, and we're just going to make this map kind of evocative of like old 8-bit video game maps. So it's going to look kind of like Pokemon maps.
I can only get so aroused, sir.
No, please, I can only get so firm. But like, it's gonna like, each town's gonna kind of be its own little world of hats. Like, it's gonna be like this is the purple town, and this is the town that really has a thing for the ocean. You know, like, it's and within that, we're gonna be able to, like, people can just kind of play whatever their hearts desire. And big thing is like, we kind of want this just to be like a really good intro to tabletop. It's like, let's get the system out of the way. Let's get all this, like,
let's show people how much fun you can have with it. Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
That's
great.
And we're definitely going to rope Will in.
Oh, you're going to have to bring some people that are totally new to it as well, right? And maybe even help teach some people, like, that's so much fun. Oh my God, that's so much fun.
I think starting out, it's going to be a lot of people where we're going to bring on like a new guest and then someone who's already been on the show, and kind of like pair them together. So it'll be like,
will you bring in NPCs guests, like characters they've maybe played before, and bring them back as NPCs?
Absolutely. So I had this running gag. Like, I floated this to Josh, that like Will and Caleb and a couple other people that are like regulars on the podcast are specifically recurring NPCs that are like level 0 characters that just keep accidentally getting roped into other people's short stories somehow, or like they make a cameo appearance. It's like
this could be so much fun.
Yeah,
my cabbages.
Exactly. You get the cabbages. And then later he creates Cabbage Corp.
Exactly. Exactly. That's just beautiful, man. Well, if y'all need any, I would love to be involved with that and help with that.
We weren't asking. You're going to be involved. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh yeah. No.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. May I have another, sir?
we made a world anvil, and like I think the idea is kind of like, me and Josh are the co-authors on it, but we're like, basically it's going to be like a message, like you can follow it and you can message us, and it'll be a world that builds as it goes. And
that's beautiful.
And if anybody like has a suggestion, like, hey, I think this would be fun to do here, we can take that into account, and maybe it'll end up in another episode.
That would be so dope. Yeah. Well, that's going to be great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, very excited. Carey had the idea this weekend, and I've been like stoked ever since. And I'm like, why would you drop such a good idea on me the week I'm looking at apartments and trying to move? Because I'm like,
because I was distracting myself from something important.
So I've
got a deadline. What about?
That's that's the epitome of yes and right there.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Stretch goals is that we have
Absolutely.
people like D. Bradley Baker show up for an episode.
That would be amazing.
D,
Oh,
we
man.
want you to be a cat. And we
Right.
only want you to make cat noises for the entirety of the episode. It's going to be very boring to all the podcast listeners, but it's going to be D. Bradley Baker.
And you have to be an intelligent cat. I have to know you are like the most snootiest cat in the world just from the meows.
If anyone could convey that he's actually the one pulling the strings only through meows and different intonations, I feel like it'd be D. Bradley Baker.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Yeah, I'm 100% down with that.
So a couple
I
funny,
concur.
two funny stories with D. Bradley Baker. He went to college here in Colorado Springs.
Really?
And actually,
Oh,
you know Josh and John's? He
Yeah.
worked at Josh and John's.
Oh, the ice cream shop.
And he's really good friends with the owners. Yes.
What?
Huh.
I didn't know that.
Crazy, right? That blew my mind. I was like, what? If I
Yeah.
ever get the chance to try and meet him, I want to try and use that as an end, be like talking about Josh and John somehow, because that's going to be such a deep cut that he's going to be so caught off guard that
I've had
I mean,
ice cream where you used to work.
yeah, right?
Actually, I had the exact same thought. So you're saying we have an in with him?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Foot in the door.
Every celebrity I've met is from Colorado, and I'm like, hey, I'm Josh. I just moved out here from Colorado. It's just like an immediate connection. So it's going to work, I bet.
Yeah. Oh, that would be so awesome. But the
My
other
only
one
point
is,
of reference is the time I met Tim Allen. But
oh,
anyway,
that's funny. Oh, yeah. Hey, you know what? 60% of the time it works every time.
How's it going, Buzz Lightyear?
Yep, right. To infinity and beyond.
It's like, I may kill you.
Yep, right. But the second thing is he started learning that by driving. So one, he got his practice doing stand-up comedy and doing stand-up. He cut his chops doing that, and then working with Nickelodeon. But he would drive around listening to insect CDs and animal CDs, and he would try to mimic the sounds on those CDs. So he would be driving to work in like his car, constantly listening to those kind of CDs,
interesting.
which is really cool. Yeah, and
Damn, dude. That is really cool.
That is awesome.
That's dedication right there. I love that.
it is. It's amazing. Like it's a part of what inspired me to want to learn more about not only voice acting, but the world. Right, like a lot of the top tier voice actors are really in tune with being an artist and being in tune with the world and the universe. He's big on macro and micro photography now. D. Bradley Baker. He has a whole website dedicated to that kind of stuff. Yeah,
That's cool.
like taking photos of bugs and all kinds of different stuff. So it's really cool how, and that's kind of an approach I've tried to take. I've tried to change the way my relationship with life and how my philosophy of life along with that, because I think that's kind of the key to it, right? You have to find a way to be happy and be zen with the world a little bit. Meditation helps a ton, honestly, too. I've been meditating a lot more, and that helps with the mindset, the presence, and the thoughtfulness. I know it sounds so cheesy.
No, I've been doing that too, man.
No,
it's the truth.
You get to be more mindful of your concept and your surroundings. I feel like more of a well-rounded person when I build skills that I didn't have before. So I completely feel that. And one of the cool things about that is being able to meditate about it. And it's not, it's not magic. It's not a cure-all. It's not the thing that's going to make you like meditating 15 minutes a day isn't going to cure your anxiety. But like
but it
having,
helps a lot. There's science,
but it helps a lot. Like that's the thing. Like that.
And
Yeah.
it's not just sitting there, right? Though that's the other part of it, right?
Yeah.
It's
It's
a
focusing on
practice,
your
and
breathing,
actually
and trying to get to that place where your thoughts are coming and going and you're not attaching to them without judgment. And people don't realize how hard it is to do, but when you hit that zone, it's powerful stuff. It's really cool.
Yeah.
It is.
It's one of those things where like you gotta kind of come to terms with there's not an end game here. It's all just working.
It's a continuum.
You're never done. It's like practicing an art, or like I imagine practicing voice acting. Like there's never an end goal. You never actually finish or reach the professionalism.
Until you're Peter Sellers. Like
right.
when you're Peter Sellers, you've made it. Like
yeah. No, but you're right, Will, though. It it's a continual practice. It's, constantly learning, because trends change too, right?
Mhm.
Knowing what is what is needed, what is wanted, where do you fit in that? Is that even something you want to be a part of it as well? Because there's certain things you have to learn, but really being true to yourself is part of the key to your success, right? Be
Mhm.
open to everything, but if something doesn't work for you, don't be honest with yourself about it too, and maybe come back to it at another time once you've maybe honed and developed some other skills. That's something that that's the more I tackle more characters, the more I realize I need to learn more about characters and character building, and how to pull that from within myself as well. That can be a challenge. So it's all learning, baby. It's all learning. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
But it's the same thing with like mental and physical health. Like it's all like you got to work out every day, like both
You gotta flex
physically
those
and then
muscles.
mentally and emotionally. Like when you're trying to work on, like when I was working through depression, it's not like, oh yeah, I just got past that depression because I worked really hard and now depression's gone. No, you just got to keep like you said, with meditating. Meditating doesn't cure your anxiety. It helps you with
It gives
anxiety.
you understanding it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It gives you that framework to build off of, and you, with that framework, you get to build that next step for getting better.
Yeah, because it's never just like, it's never fixing something. It's just learning to deal with something, or getting better at dealing with something.
And changing your relationship with that thing as well, right? And that's growth. Those are building blocks, and it's hard. I've been diagnosed since I was 13 with pretty much all of that, and some stuff that's later, as the beauties of trauma. But it is a continual thing you have to be aware of, and you always fight. Some days it's easier, some days it's not. I've had my fair share of of days where it's really hard, and it's just finding to accept that is part of who you are, but it doesn't define who you are. You have to accept all of you wholly. You have to accept all of yourself, right? You are all of these things. You are a hodgepodge of good and bad, and that's okay. Everybody is. And holding ourselves to perfection and to some just finding a way to love yourself is just important, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at. Finding a way to love yourself is so important.
Yeah, like being able to accept yourself is huge, and finding a method of outlet that actually works for you, because certain therapies don't work for everybody. Like the thing that I ended up finding for my PTSD was cognitive processing therapy. And it was a very worksheet based therapy. And the whole reason I found out about that was because I listened to a This American Life about it. It was called 12 Sessions. And it's got a lot of the same principles as cognitive behavioral therapy and DPT. I don't remember what DPT stands for.
Oh, you mean DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy?
Yeah, and then there's a DPT, I think it's dialectical processing therapy, and and like the eye tracking stuff. But
EMDR, yeah, that's what
EMDR, and cognitive processing therapy is very worksheet based, and it's a building worksheet, and it's teaching you how to, like, your first thing you do is you write out a narrative of the event, of whatever the event is, and then you go through all, and then you break out stuck points, and you break out, like, what are the situations that are making me think about this, and what's a better thought I can do. And those worksheets get to the point where you've got a whole kind of a 15 question worksheet that you can go through, and it's like, all right, what's the thought, like, what's the event, what's the stuck point, a couple short answers, like, what's the evidence for this, what's the evidence against it, like, is the source reliable? And then you get down to a bunch of yes no questions, and then it's, what's the new thought, like, what's a new better thought now that you've been able to process this. And then at the end of these 12 sessions, you rewrite that narrative. And the difference for me in 6 months between the way those narratives read was night and day. And it was because I got to build that step one at a time. I think my dog knocked over the yoga mat.
That's okay.
He's also a huge scaredy cat, so he friggin' jumped out of his skin. But yeah, like that, and that's the thing, like that. When I found out about that type of therapy, I went and I talked to, I asked the therapist about it, and I was like, is this something you think would be beneficial? And she said, absolutely. And it's kind of like finding out what workout works best for you and not being judgmental of the fact that you are not of the same strength as Hafthor Bjornsson. Finding out what artistic interpretation speaks to you, and or like any number of them and how they feed off of each other. Like whatever psychological or spiritual thing that you can do to also integrate those, like there's not really a whole, like,
there's no
I
wrong
personally,
answer.
yeah, there's no
wrong
exactly
answer.
there's no wrong answer. I was going to say like I'm not going to get on you for any, but yeah, there's just no wrong answer to it.
Yeah.
It's finding your way to cope in this life, and
Mhm.
finding, no judgment in it. And that's beautiful that you were able to do that. For one, kudos, man. I'm glad I think everybody should find that therapy and find what works for them. I'm a big
Absolutely.
advocate for therapy. Find the one that works for you. Not all therapy is the same, not all is equal. But find what does work for you. And I can
Find
tell
the
you
therapist that works for you. Yeah.
Exactly. I've been through quite a few myself till I found the one I've been with now for a few years. And
It's awesome.
I do EMDR therapy, which is eye tracking, or stimulation. Is like I have a stimulant that goes back, back and forth, and you focus on that. I keep my eyes closed, but you're basically reprocessing and reliving through traumatic experiences and changing your relationship with it. You're reprocessing it, assessing it in a healthy and safe environment now versus the times you lived through it and a time when it wasn't safe and you developed maybe bad coping mechanisms, or you developed triggers. It was triggering moments for you. You essentially it's a little bit of exposure therapy, a little as well. You work yourself desensitized a little bit toward it, and that's that can be a challenge sometimes, because there's some things that come out that you don't, as in all therapy, that you don't know what the that was, that came out of nowhere. New trauma unlocked. Hello, achievement.
Yep.
Cha-ching, 100 gamer score points. That's
But yeah, brain health is so important. So I think everyone should try therapy and see what works for them. I think it can only benefit people. So 100% agree.
This is an ad for therapy, everybody. This is an ad for therapy, listeners.
Yeah.
Now let's see if some therapist places can like sponsor the podcast a little bit. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
And there's better help. What did you have something?
Oh, I was just gonna say it's all just I'm actually trying to get my head back into where I was saying, because I had already moved on. Oh, yeah, I was saying as far as like that finding what works for you, because I had a friend who really swore by hi cat wants to be involved in the podcast now, apparently.
Hey cat.
I had a friend who like swore by just talk therapy, just going in and talking to a therapist every week, and that really worked for them, but like that doesn't work for me at all, because I'm terrible at talking to people.
This podcast is proof otherwise, but continue.
Yeah, but then I realized that like most of my therapy actually comes from being able to just like sit down and draw and get a lot of like those being able to work through a lot of those like thought processes and stuff, just getting into that zone where like your body's doing something else and your brain can just think.
That's awesome, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I think
agreed.
Quincy Jones.
it is just like working out. Like when I was working out with Carey, and everybody's a little bit different. So like we're doing deadlifts, squats, and bench press, and like Carey has me beat on like by like 200 pounds squatting or deadlifting, and we get on the bench press, and I'm breaking 200, and Carey can't, and that's like great for me. I can out bench press the one-handed man.
Well, when you like, that's the cool thing though, is like Will, like as far as that goes, Will was talking about like in that workout session, he was like, I haven't lifted in so many years. I'll be surprised if I can lift this. And he goes and he crushes over body weight lifts on everything. And like that,
Way to
like
go,
if
dude, for one.
Yeah, and if you're talking about like a baseline of fitness is another thing I'm a nerd about. Like if you can do more than body weight on most of your main lifts, you're doing pretty good. And especially if you haven't lifted in a few years. So, it's kind of like you'll talk to guys with PTSD who like have the divide between, at least military guys, like you'll have a divide between like these skills that you learned in the military and the things that you do in your day-to-day life. And you'll think about it in separate silos, but a lot of the things that you've learned in whatever your experience was, even if that experience is related to trauma, that like outside of the unhealthy coping mechanisms you picked up, there are some healthy things and skills that you picked up that you can apply to day-to-day life. And it doesn't mean that it has to be a combat scenario. It's like, this is just your day-to-day, or, anybody who's been through something that's like harrowing and traumatic and has put you in a physically, mentally, and spiritually taxing place. You have a certain amount of skills that you have picked up or things that you've learned, and you have to get over your unhealthy coping mechanisms or like where the circuits are shorted. But when you come those out,
decouple that.
And when you decouple it, the cool thing is you get to keep the good stuff. Like if you're a creative person and a lot of that creativity comes out of like traumatic ass past, when you handle that traumatic ass past, you get to take those skills forward.
It's beautiful. You give yourself the freedom. You have no idea how much space you don't have for that shit right now. If you're not treating it, if you're listening to this and you're not treating traumatic ass experiences from someone who like, there are so many different ways you can be traumatized. First and foremost, just be honest with yourself if you have, but start treating it, because you have no idea how much emotional space is being taken up in your mind and your body and in your life right now by all of that shit just to survive. Because you've been just surviving for so long, you have no idea what it's like to live.
Well said.
Yeah. Very well said. Fantastically said.
So, as someone who's learning how to live, do it.
Yeah. We're all works in progress, but we're progressing. Progress, not perfection.
It is the hardest shit you will do. You will never be more afraid, I think, than that, because you are facing yourself and your hardest demons, the darkest parts of you that you have to reckon with, that you have to learn to love. You have to, all of it, every bit of it, because it is.
And that's where expression comes in, man. That's where the best expression. Like, you want to hear a song that's filled with pain? Go listen to "Eye Against Eye" by Bad Brains. All right. Old school punk track, second wave of punk. It was in the 80s. Like, this is the Black Flag era, guys. But you're literally listening
to
Mascis
era, where we got Jay Mascis going on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're listening to a song that's about somebody trying to process the fact that he is facing himself on such a constant basis. And that was that guy's art. I mean, fuck, it's one of the reasons that Van Gogh is so cool to watch. It's so cool to like look at and break apart. Like if we're talking like painting, because you get to see a dude who was so actively in pain and trying to process that in the only way that he could. And like that, and
he was left with nothing but himself.
Exactly. We had distractions. He didn't have anything else.
And that's the beauty of it, right? That's the beauty of what you can do. And imagine what you can do treating that. Like, the more the better you get at it, taking those good skills out of that. You are worth it. Not just you guys, but anyone listening, you are worth that. You are worth that and so much more.
So if anyone's listening who has any kind of political power, make access to mental health care much better, because we have a long way to go in terms of other countries that are way ahead of us,
Whole body, man. It's all of it. It all is one.
That's why I love the term brain health as opposed to mental health. I think it really shows that you got to take care of your brain. It's a pretty important organ. So all about it.
I concur.
This has been like such a rich, powerful podcast. Holy shit, that's awesome.
So in a lot of different directions than I was expecting.
This is why I fucking love nerds, man.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, we've be a nerd. I think you can be nerdy about anything, but to be what we know of as a nerd, you have to be, I think, in touch with something beyond yourself. You have to be something beyond you. There's something altruistic in you. It's beautiful when you meet those like-minded spirits, and because the thing that draws us to these artistic and beautiful things that we're nerds about is the pain and the challenges we've seen. Why we love these things is because we see ourselves and we see our pain and our sacrifices and our struggles reflected in that, and how we've overcome it. And maybe not what we have overcome, but what we strive to overcome, where we strive to be, maybe. And it's why I want to do what I do, why I want to work more on writing and creating. I want to give people the things that helped keep me alive, to be honest with you, because through some of the darkest days, some of the hardest things I ever went through, entertainment, books, games, movies, that's the shit that kept me going and alive. Honestly, being able to see those other worlds and other people can do this shit. So of course we can.
It's so critical. People don't realize how powerful and moving it is.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Man, I think that's. I'm sorry to know that was perfectly real. I honestly think that's the button, because that's like, if we're talking about like a good bookend to the podcast, that was a great, like, that was very insightful. And I think that honestly speaks to the reason that we as nerds have attachments to things in this way. Like, these are things that in some way, shape, or form kept us going when almost nothing else did. And that's a fantastic way of putting it, Matthew.
That's why we're here, man. That's why I'm thankful for this, because I was afraid to even get up on here, be real. I mean, that fear, right? That thing we talk about, and I'm thankful I did, overcoming it and doing it, right? Because
dude, we're so thankful to have you, man. This is such a great
Absolutely.
time. This is a wonderful conversation, man. Thank you so much.
Thank y'all. We definitely have to do it again sometime. And I
absolutely.
look forward to doing some more stuff too. Absolutely.
Oh yes, we'll do more podcasts with you
for the Session Zeros.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And
to bring you and our audience into the world of Jirhania.
I like it.
With the naming convention of whatever letters sounded fantastical.
I threw out like 12 different random ass names, and then Carey was like, that one. I was like, sweet, okay.
It's
We're
beautiful.
gonna do it.
That does sound like very, very magical.
It is,
doesn't it?
It feels mystical.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, everyone who's listened to this podcast, thank you for listening. Matthew, thank you so much for coming on. Everyone, check out in the links to this video. We'll have Matthew's social media on there and his comic, which we all are going to check out because it sounds fucking awesome. And just thank you again for coming on, man. This is the first time, but not the last time that you will be on Nerd and Friends, my friend. So
thank you so much. I look forward to it. I'm throwing you real quick this link so you have that.
Perfect.
Yeah. Hell yeah, man.
Thank you. Outstanding.
Absolutely.
Starship420.com.
Yeah.
Y'all were super simple, but y'all were wonderful, man. Y'all were great, and I love the podcast which y'all do here, and I appreciate you guys so much. Will, Carey, Josh, y'all were fantastic.
Yeah,
you were awesome.
Thank
you so much for your time.
Definitely appreciate cutting on, especially because we need more nerds now that we know that Josh has lost his nerd card.
Yeah, we need to fill the deficit.
Damn it.
Because apparently now Josh is the straight man, speaking to the middle America steelworkers and the non-nerds of the world.
I'm ending the recording right now. How dare you?
That's the real button.
We end this now.
I said good day.
I said
cut.
good day. Cut. Desperate cut. But seriously, this was awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Yeah.
We'll love
Thank you
it
so much again. Yeah. Feel free